So I wanted to make a video about my buddy heater. I have this little heater, as well as right there I have a kerosene heater, radiant heater, whatever you call it. And for now, those are kind of the two things I have for heating during the winter time. Now, I'm in a different garage than a lot of my videos were in. I sold my older house, and this garage isn't as big, so it might be a tad bit easier to heat. But obviously this buddy heater is not what you're supposed to be using to heat a whole garage, but I just kind of want to see if it'll help. I kind of like using propane. The 1 pound cylinder that hooks into this, you can fill 20 of those cylinders off of a normal grill tank, a 20-pound grill tank. So it's kind of nice using propane. My kerosene heater obviously uses kerosene. That's, if you buy it in stores, it's pretty expensive, and then, you know, if you buy it at a pump, then it's cheaper, but you gotta find a pump somewhere, and it's sometimes not worth driving to find one. But anyway, so right now it is just a tad under 40, and I do think that this garage kind of holds heat for a while on its own. It's not insulated, obviously, but I think just you know, late fall, early winter, it's always a little bit warmer inside than it is outside. So that being just below 40, it's actually close to freezing right now outside. And the humidity's high, which I think is adding to the chilling effect. I think it seems colder than it is because the humidity's high. So, but anyway, I have some propane stuff here. That I pretty much put away every spring. So this here is actually a 1 pound refillable cylinder kit, and I got it at Menards. It's from FlameKing, and I have 2 of these little 1 pound cylinders that you can refill. And then I also have these green tanks here, which you can also refill, but I don't do it because it's stupid. They're not meant to be refilled, so it's kind of dangerous. If you like doing it, whatever, but I preferred buying the refillable ones that actually have a bleeder on them for 80% capacity, which I'll show it to you here. But there's a little tiny Allen screw right there, and that is the bleeder, and it takes a really tiny Allen wrench. And so I just bought this tiny little pair of vice grips from Tractor Supply, and then put this little Allen wrench on there, and that's what you use to bleed it. So basically what you do is you take a 20-pound grill cylinder, and it comes with this valve. Screw this valve onto the cylinder. You flip the cylinder upside down so the valve is downward, so the liquid's on that valve, and then you open the valve, and I can actually show it here. I need to get a tank filled, but you just screw in one of these 1 pound cylinders, and then you open the bleeder and you open this valve and you just let it fill, and then when it starts shooting liquid out of the bleeder, then you know it's full. Pretty easy system, and I really like these little 1 pound tanks. Obviously they're small, they're light, and they're easier to move around than lugging an entire kerosene heater around. In my opinion, these little normal green 1-pound camping cylinders are a complete waste of resources because you're not supposed to refill them. In fact, for companies that sell propane, it's a $500,000 fine if they get caught refilling any of these. So they're just a waste. You're just supposed to throw them away. That's just stupid to manufacture a tank like that that can only be used once. And that's why I really like these from FlameKing. I just had to have this whole kit when I saw it for sale at Menards. It comes with one tank, the stand, and the valve, and then that's in the kit, and then they actually sell extra tanks, and that's what I got. So anyway, enough about that. So I've had this buddy heater for a couple years. You know what, obviously it provides heat, so it does work. I think for the most part, you know, these little heaters are for like tents and fishing shacks and kind of stuff like that. As far as, you know, square footage to heat comfortably, but obviously in a garage like this, it's not really going to do a whole lot. But at my other house where I had a double stall garage, you know, I'd light this thing up and I'd just let the heat kind of shoot out at me while I was working on, you know, cleaning a carburetor, fixing a chainsaw, whatever. And that alone is great because it warms up your hands, so then your dexterity comes back. My hands already, you know, hardly move when it gets close to freezing and below freezing. So the little things, it's a nice heater to have. But for the most part, every year it starts up pretty well. It gets dusty from sitting over the, you know, spring and summer. So I usually kind of blow it out a little bit, which I did a while back, so it's not too bad now. But typically I use compressed air out of my compressor, but I did get this electric cordless bower blower. Yeah, it's not even dirty, really. I blew it out a while ago when I was moving, so it's pretty clean. But anyway, I want to see if this thing will light up. So these tanks here, this one's full. I know that one is. Very little liquid in these. And I kind of want to burn them off so I can throw these tanks away. It's just extra stuff to have in the garage. I'd like to burn all this propane up and get rid of these tanks and never buy another one again. If anything, I'm going to buy more of the refillable FlameKing ones. Alright. So, this thing here, pretty easy. You got off, pilot, low and high. You have to turn it over to pilot, and it starts letting gas out when you do that. Then you got to push this down, and that's the igniter. Okay, usually takes a while, but I'm going to shut this light off quick. Might be kind of hard to see, sorry. I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably not. But it's sparking down there. It wants to. Then you got to hold this button down. Once that lights, you hold this button down. I know it's hard to see, or you can't really see anything, but You hold the pilot button down for about 30 seconds, and that kind of warms it up a little bit so it'll stay. But I wanted to turn the lights off so you could see this thing fire up. We're getting on about 30 seconds now. That flame's been going long enough. It should have warmed everything up. Now if I let off this button, it should stay on, which it does. So you turn it over to low. Then it pushes propane through all those little holes. You can see it's already starting to glow. There we go, there's high. Just wanted to show you that. Because when the lights are on, you really can't tell that it's even on. At least you kind of can't in this garage because my lights are so bright, but that already feels great. And my problem with this heater is every time I use it, it's like too cold outside to really tell a difference. And so being that it's above freezing right now, if this is going to make any difference in this garage, it's probably going to do it now. But obviously when you get down to 5-10 degrees outside, it's really not going to do a whole lot. You need a lot of heat to bring up the temperature when it's that cold, but it sure does feel good. Where's my heat gun at? Oh, anyway, I had a heat gun somewhere. Glad I keep all my mini excavator stuff over here instead of in the shed where my excavator is. So, oh, maybe you can see it then. Oh, it's orange. I bought this little their infrared thermometer thing from Harbor Freight. Is like 15 bucks. And I bought it to see how hot the hydraulics on my mini excavator got. Overheat. Max. Move back a little bit, see if this thing works. So from maybe 24 inches, I guess I don't really know if the distance makes a huge difference, but you can see that it's quite a few hundred degrees. Of course, this is, you know, from Harbor Freight. 12-1, distance, spot size, 4 feet, 1 foot. Too hot, apparently. Celsius, I have no idea if that's accurate or not. Overheat. I think that's what OH means. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. It obviously provides some sort of heat. Another thing too is, depending on your temperature and how full your cylinder is, you'll notice that your heat will greatly get reduced the colder it is outside, because propane boils at, I think, like negative 44 degrees Fahrenheit. And obviously the closer you get to that negative 44, the less violent the liquid propane is boiling. So when it doesn't boil as violently, it doesn't produce as much vapor, and vapor is how these work. That's why you don't have to have any type of, form of pressurization here. You don't have to have air or fans or blowers or anything. The propane is pushing itself through this whole system using the pressure from the boiling inside of the tank. And when you fill these, and they're 80% full, you have all that vapor in the top of the tank that, pretty pressurized up top. But then as the liquid starts to disappear because you're burning it off, if your liquid's down here, all the space here is vapor. So what can happen is, I don't know about this heater, but when your propane gets low, you can actually run out of vapor for your heater. And I bought one of those bullet heaters years ago because I had a 3.5 stall garage, and it worked really good until it burned up all the vapor out of the tank, and the tank wasn't boiling violently enough to produce enough vapor for the heater to stay on. So in that case, you usually got to get like a 100-pound cylinder, or start getting into 100-gallon tanks and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just an FYI. The lower your propane gets, the less this thing will put out heat. And then obviously if your ambient outside temperature gets below 44 Fahrenheit, then the propane will stop boiling, therefore it won't produce any vapor. But anyway, this thing feels good just having it here. I really don't know how much this is even going to go up, because all the airspace in this garage, heat rises, so it has to collect at the ceiling and then work its way down to affect this gauge. And in this case, there's no ceiling put on there, no insulation, taller, up by the crook of the roof, that's all wide open. So that's a lot of space to fill with heat. So I really don't think this is going to change much. But I guess the only real science here is that if you have it in front of your hands when you're working on something, it'll help. It's better than nothing. I've never used one of these in a confined space, really. Like, I might have tried it out in a small shed one day for fun, but I really didn't get a good result from it. But you're supposed to be able to use these inside. Obviously you have carbon monoxide as a byproduct of burning fuels, and it's supposed to be, efficient enough. You're supposed to be able to do that. But I've seen a lot of videos and read a lot of articles about people that have issues with these in fishing tents, really small ones, or a fishing shack, or whatever you call that, ice shack. And if you start feeling dizzy, bring a lighter with you, just like a cheap Bic lighter. If you light that lighter and the flame is blue, you have a problem. Or if it doesn't light at all, there's too much carbon monoxide in the air. Is it monoxide or dioxide? I can't remember which one, but so that's one way you can tell if you have unsafe conditions in a confined space while you're burning propane. But I don't even know if there's any kerosene in this. Got some truck parts that I never put on. I bought this around the same time I bought my Husky log splitter from Tractor Supply. It was Black Friday a year ago. And I had a video about this, a long video, and I never posted it because I was afraid it'd be boring, just like the one you're watching right now. But I bought this kerosene heater, put it all together, and to be honest with you, it does work really well. My problem was my garage was too big and it didn't warm it up fast enough. You'd have to leave this on all day almost to make a difference, and then by the time the garage was warm, it's time to close up shop and go inside and stuff. But I see that the gauge on here says it's not empty, but it's not full either. So I'm gonna see if I can get anything going here. I can't remember if you're supposed to use matches or not. Manual shut off. Auto start. Okay. I cannot remember how this thing works. Okay, so that's coming on. There is a wick somewhere. There it is. I just can't remember how to use this thing. There it goes. Sat for a whole year. Look at that. Lights right up. Wow. That's amazing. Sure is smoking though. Yeah, and this thing here, literally on the box, it said for indoor use. It's supposed to be that clean, but I think if the wick is not saturated with kerosene enough, it might smoke a bit because it's gonna burn the wicking material or whatever that is. You can see how it's already kind of black. So right now it's on high. This thing has a kind of a goofy, oh, never mind. Low, high, low. This manual shut-off thing is kind of violent. When you hit that, this whole knob goes backwards really fast and it kills the flame. There's barely any kerosene in this thing. I think I remember dumping some of it out to start a fire actually, but and honestly, it's probably good to run this stuff every once in a while, not just let it sit for a year, but I just didn't use it much. And then I had the idea that I was gonna install a wood stove, and then, you know, my jurisdiction that I live in would only allow me to have a wood stove if I had an inspector inspect it and had specialized piping and height rules. And if your whole idea is to cut up wood and split wood that you have on your property to use as heat to save money, if you have to have inspectors come in and use fancy pants piping and stuff, you're not saving any money. It's more of a pain than anything, which I think is wrong. It's your house. You should be able to burn wood all you want. But if I would have done it without a permit and everything, at the time, my neighbors would have called in the smoke coming out of the chimney, so probably would have got shut down anyways. So now I'm left with a whole bunch of split wood, and I still enjoy splitting wood. I just don't have a wood stove to burn it in with. Well, I have a wood stove, I just don't have a place for it. This garage here, you cannot have wood stoves in this jurisdiction, but stinks a little bit, but it's actually kind of nice. You can definitely tell that heat rises. Right here it's cold, over here it's cold, down here it's cold, right here it's great. Radiant heat. This thing is not on anymore. So I think I ran the vapor out like I was talking about earlier. There's still liquid in this. I can hear it. This isn't all the way out. But the liquid though, it's so low in there, it cannot fill up this vapor space fast enough. And right now it's only about 84 degrees above boiling for propane. So it's not boiling off fast enough to fill this vapor space to keep this heater going. So that's just the way propane is. This one has way more liquid in it. Let's try this. Leave the lights on this time. See? Pilot lights right up now. Stays on. Low. You can't see it. I can hear it. It'll start glowing here in a second. So everything here filled up and low. Now I'm going to turn it up to high. See, now it's starting to glow. And that there is way better heat than it was giving off earlier because there's more liquid in this tank. So your pressure in the tank in this situation, I would think there would be some sort of regulator on this thing, but pretty much the pressure in the tank is kind of what dictates how warm these are going to be. So I think if your pressure is lower in the tank than the regulator regulates it to, then you're not going to have very strong flame. So if that makes any sense. I really have no idea if these have regulators or not. I think it would have to, because if for whatever reason you were using this in the middle of the summer when it's 100 degrees outside, meaning, you know, if it's 100 Fahrenheit, it's 144 above boiling for propane. So pretty much regardless of your vapor space in your tank, it's boiling so violently it's filling that up. So you have constant pressure all the time when it's hot out. But obviously when it cools off just a little bit, I honestly think that's moving. Maybe I'm wrong. It's up to 40 now Fahrenheit. So I would think, you know, if I really had to, use this thing to warm my hands at the workbench and then see how well this kerosene heater does. I'm pretty impressed that it fired up after sitting for about a year. I don't know if my little thingy here will work or not. $400 something, 500 something degrees. Point it over here. Got 42. So my thermometer on the workbench back there is maybe a little bit lower, or maybe this is wrong. I don't know. Move it back over here. 500 something. My GoPro ran out of battery, but anyway, I guess the point of this video is that if you're looking for a cheap and mobile way to heat something, whether it's a garage or a shed or a tent or whatever, these are a couple options. I actually would be curious if I just left this thing on high in here, if it would really get pretty warm. Then obviously, if you have insulation and your building is sealed up really well, that's going to make a huge difference. But if you're losing heat through cracks and gaps and stuff in your garage door and whatever, if you're losing heat faster than you're producing it, you're not going to do a whole lot. But It's kind of why I like burning wood. Get a lot of heat from that. Can't remember what I paid for this Buddy heater. I know it was on sale somewhere. It was probably Mills Fleet Farm or Menards or somewhere. But these things aren't bad. Like I said, if you get a normal size grill cylinder, you can fill up a 1 pound cylinder 20 times with it. I'm gonna run these cylinders out, get rid of those, they're dumb. I can't remember. I think these FlameKing refillable cylinders, I think they're about 15 to 20 bucks a piece. And I know that seems like a lot, but it's refillable obviously, so they're a little bit more higher quality than these throwaway ones. And like I said, they got a little bleeder on there. Not going to open the bleeder right now since I have an open flame, but when it's up to 80% capacity, it does blow liquid out of that. So if you buy one of these, you want to be careful of that. I don't know if Menards would sell gloves for you know, liquid burns or whatever, something for propane and butane and cryogenic stuff, whatever that may be. But it'd be nice to have a pair of gloves when you're doing these. But it's kind of why I stuck this Allen wrench on the end of this little crescent. Well, it's not a crescent wrench, but crescent brand. Because that liquid comes out of that thing. Especially if you're filling it in the summer, it sprays out of there. The liquid does. I need to get one of my tanks filled, and then maybe sometime I'll show how it works. It's incredibly easy. Just flipping the tank upside down, hooking this valve up. Then it's basically just gravity fill down into these, and then you know when it's at capacity and you're done. Now I'm not like a environmentalist and freak out about, you know, wasting materials and stuff, but I will say it really annoys me, these cylinders. That's just the biggest, dumbest thing ever for selling propane. I guess maybe if the industry doesn't allow these to be refilled, then that's what you get, is one-time use crap. So they make them as cheap as they possibly can, and I guarantee you they don't fill at least 80%, because that would be probably too full to the you know, the quality of this tank. So they probably fill it below 80%. So you're really not even getting a full pound of propane, probably. I don't know. That's speculation, but very stupid. So get a FlameKing. I also have this, which I got from Walmart. And this is an adapter. You can go from a 20-pound cylinder, and this has the same end on it that these little tanks have. So instead of hooking a 1-pound tank into this heater, you can hook this hose into it and hook up to a 20-pound, 30-pound, 40-pound, you know, grill tank or something similar, and run it off of that, which obviously this heater would run a lot longer using a bigger tank. I've never used this. I bought it just to have, just in case, but I've never used it. This heater is light enough that, you know, if you wanted to put a propane cylinder on it and use the carrying handle, probably with it off, because I think this has spill protection where if it tips, it kills the flame, I think. But anyway, this is light enough, you can carry it to an ice shack, you know. If you're going out fishing or whatever, you can bring a full tank and you can carry this thing out there and then have heat. Obviously, you don't want to carry this and a 20-pound cylinder. So, 20-pound cylinder is pretty close to 40 pounds when it's full. You got the tare weight of the tank and then 20 pounds LP, if you get it filled to 80% or whatever. So you don't want to have to walk out to your shack with all that. And I guess one positive thing about having a garage that's leaky is if you do have a buildup of carbon monoxide. I can't remember if it's monoxide or dioxide, but anyway, if you have a buildup of that indoors, you know, that would make you sick and potentially kill you. If you have a leaky building, it's probably going to leak out the same as your heat. So maybe in a way it kind of protects you a little bit. I don't know. If you have a really, really airtight building and, you know, you have pollutants coming out of something that you're using for heat, you know, it could kill you faster if it's airtight. But I had a smoker a long time ago that I bought brand new, used it like 3 times, and then it sat for years, and I sold it, and someone came over to buy it. And, you know, the guy asked me, he's like, does it work? I'm like, well, it did when I last used it, but I'm like, it's probably dirty. It's been sitting for years. So I hooked up a tank, and I hit this igniter on this smoker, and it lit instantly after like 2 or 3 years. And the guy was like, wow, I'll take it. And I'm like, huh. Surprising. I guess with kerosene, it's probably different because you have a liquid soaked wick that has to get lit. But when it comes to propane, it's a pretty common thing to have dust and debris and dirt and contaminants get into propane systems and kind of blocks them up really bad. I have that problem with up here. I have that problem with my little camp grill there. That regulator I know works. I have a spare in here, and this one, you know, the orifices or whatever you call them in here are so small. If they get dirty, you know, then you'll have problems with your propane, and you'll have either a weak burn or it won't ignite at all. So propane's a little more finicky with that stuff, but pretty cool. Anyways, this is a really long video for talking about a couple little heaters, but I just wanted to make a video about that if anyone was curious or wondering, whatever. Do I recommend these buddy heaters? Yeah, sure I do. Just as long as you're using it for what it's kind of meant for, because you'll be disappointed if you think this little thing's going to heat an entire shop or whatever, you know. But for camping and portability and all that stuff, you know, that's just a nice little heater. So, and I've even seen these little racks you can put on these safety things, and you can actually like set a hot dog down or like a cup of coffee or something, and it could even cook it over time, which is kind of funny. So, and they do make another model or another version of this from Buddy or from Mr. Heater or whatever, and it's like a two-piece one. It has like a food burner at the bottom, so you can like put a pan on it and cook with it, and then the top part is similar to this, but it's like 270 degrees of burner, you know, so 3/4 of the whole top of the unit is basically that. So it kind of emits heat out 3 directions as opposed to this being one. And they're like 100. I've seen them for about $100 on eBay and Amazon, and I've always thought about trying one of those. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll get one just to see what it does out of curiosity. Yeah. Heaters are nice to have for all different sorts of reasons. And then this, as far as this kerosene heater goes, do I recommend it? I mean, sure. I can't verify how clean this thing burns, so if the purpose of buying one was emergency heat for your house, obviously you want to monitor the danger inside of your house, but for the air. But I mean, it does work. And like I said, if you have insulation and stuff, it'll work even better. But it did light up after sitting for a year, and it got dusty a lot. I always blow this thing off with my leaf blower. try to keep it halfway clean, but it seems to work good. It only cost me $99.99 at Tractor Supply. I got my Husky 20-ton splitter for $799.99, and then I got this for $100. So it was like $900 plus 7% tax on Black Friday like a year ago. I think that's what it costed. But yeah, my wood stove debacle, that'll be a complete later video. Still have my cast iron wood stove, just nowhere to legally put it yet. Anyway, this video is long enough. If anyone has any questions or anything about these, let me know. I did glance over at this gauge again, and as you can see, it's just below 50, so there is heat building up in this garage. Right now it's only 16 degrees above outside temp, but that's better than, you know, the outside temperature. So, and these have only been running as long as this video is taken to make, so it's making a difference. Anyway, we're moving into that time of year. Got to deal with the cold. All of my viewers that live in a place that doesn't get too bad in the winter, you're lucky. And then to the people that get colder than I do here in Iowa, I feel bad for you. But alrighty. Thanks for watching.